Welcome to Thursday Night Knives. I'm Bob DeMarco. Coming up, we're going to take a look at a new paring knife from Steve Kalari Customs that came in for a friend of mine. We're going to talk about how your perspective on collecting has changed, and we're going to check in with Ben Belkin of Jack Wolf Knives. He's coming on to talk about his brand new knife. I'm very excited to get that. That'll be coming in shortly. And yeah, I'm really psyched for that because it's right in my. It's a sleeve board, clip point. It's a big boy, and I'm very excited for it. So we're going to get to that, and we're going to check in with y'all. I want to find out how your perspective on collecting has changed over the years. Robert, how's it going, sir? Robert Douglas. Guess I'm early. Evening, Bob. No, you're not early. Everyone's late. Just kidding. Dave, how's it going? He says, greetings to all Thursday Night Knives junkies from Bladeland. Oh my goodness, Bladeland it is indeed. Over by Dave, showing off his new Pinkerton Pickall. So cool. JVF, good to see you here, sir. JVF from across the pond. Evening, everybody. He's a coffee lover. I'm a coffee lover. We probably all are here. Flip Solo, good to see you. Hey, Bob and Jim, he says. What's up, man? How you doing? Will B, how are you, sir? And you will be getting your number. Those of you who requested numbers, special numbers on your Nova ones, you are all noted and getting the number you requested. So will be. I was just noting that the other day. JBF, great night incoming. Happy to be there. Well, it's great to have you here, man. Dave, my perspective on knife collecting has changed. I'm looking at the pile from the bottom up. Oh my God, no kidding. It's a dragon's trove you have. Boba Fettuccine, good to have you here, Boba. Mr. Fettuccine is in the house with us, as is Blade Ogre. How you doing, Chris? Good to see you. Can't wait to see the 9 knives you were carrying on your person today. I've been in the habit lately of pulling out things that I haven't carried in a while and carrying them, and I'm loving it. For instance, wait, where is it? Well, I did recently have this on me. This is the Tucson 336. It's a knife I've not really carried much in a little while since I got it. It's a little Mall Ninja-y, but way up my alley. It's got the nice, what is that? Burlap micarta. It's got flipper and the thumb studs. And what is this? S30 14C28, and very nice knife. And one that I got and hustled away because something else came in. But a really nice knife. You got a flat grind, you got a hollow grind. It's a reverse Tonto. I love this kind of thing. I've been pulling out. Oh, this I should sheathe. I had this just to test the camera, and yeah, I better sheathe that. All right. So yeah, pulling out old stuff, checking it out. It does change the perspective, where you started, the kind of things you were into. At one point, it's just acquiring, just to have more and more and more. And then as you grow more sophisticated in your tastes, some of those things you might not ever get again, but you don't want to get rid of because it stands for a certain time in your collecting. But we can get to all of that. But before we do, I think it might be time to do a pocket check. So today in my front right pocket in first fiddle was the asymmetrical night horse. This is a Dirk Pinkerton design, and it is his modern, his take on the Navaja, a modern Navaja. That big, beautiful ratchet lock folder. That's not what they call it. What is that kind of? It's sort of like a ratchet. It makes clicking sounds as it opens, but a big fighting knife that was used by Spaniards to fight in the streets once they were no longer allowed to carry swords. A beautiful design. I've always loved that Spanish clip, that long flat clip with sort of a steep precipice there. I've always loved that. And you can see that highlighted in traditional Navajas. This, of course, is not an actual. This is just a tourist piece. This is a fake lock. That little lock leaf thing is just molded in. But the reason I like this is that blade, that sweeping down belly, and then this portion, that clip, that long clip, and then the horn-shaped handle. Very cool. Always love the design. So that's what I was carrying on me today. This thing is S35VN, very sharp, great action, pretty heavy. It's a titanium without any. I don't think there's any. Yeah, no milling of material out of there. Two pretty thick slabs of titanium. Doesn't bother me. I like the curve, and I like how it sits in my pocket with the curved clip, especially like work pants and slanted non-jean pockets. Though this fits great in the jeans also. Okay, so on theme with the knife I was thinking was going to arrive today, but didn't. Today I had in my left pocket, or just banging around all over the place, was the Jack Wolf Knives Little Bro. I love this knife. This is like the number 15 GEC boy's knife. You got that sleeve board pattern there, and you've got a beautiful clip point blade, full height hollow ground M390 blade. This was the third release from Jack Wolf Knives, and a real favorite of mine. I've always loved the boys' knives, and something about that micarta is beautiful. Now, if you know your Jack Wolf Knives, the micarta is going away. As a matter of fact, the big brother, or the big bro, I'm not sure what it's called, the one that's coming out tomorrow, I believe. Now that one is the last one that's going to have a micarta option, black micarta handle. Everything else from here on out will be carbon fiber. That is what is selling, and so that's what you got to give the people what they want. Okay, next up, this one I haven't carried in a while, and it's resurfacing as a favorite. Greg Maroney, what's up, man? How you doing? Great to have you here. Just taking a look at the pocket check. You got to let me know what you were carrying too. In my waistband, this went from I'm trying to start appendix carrying, and certain knives are good at that. This one is sort of. I think I just have to get used to it. But this is the Ditch Pick by JB Knife and Tool out of Texas. I love this thing. It's got a super thin 1/16 of an inch thick blade, very much like a kitchen knife in terms of thin, but very, very tough. This is, what is this? Now I can't remember what the blade steel is, but I do know that he puts these through some serious torture tests, and I have not put this through a torture test. This to me is a self-protection weapon. It comes originally as a Pikal style with the edge in, but on this run he was offering full double edge, so of course I had to go for that. I would regret any other choice, though. It does look cool with the bayonet grind, where this is sharp only up to here. Just reinforcing the fact that it's a Pikal style knife primarily, and not an upswept Persian-y kind of knife. But hey, what's the difference? It's a thin line. So I had the Ditch Pick. That's peel ply. Today I was just thinking how nice it would be to have micarta on these handles. So who knows? Maybe someday. Dare we dream? And then lastly, I had JVS says, always impressive to see how many knives some are carrying. Me at 4, I would say I'm in the middle. Mark Herrera, good to see you here, sir. My emotional support knife today was the Watuaga by Sencut. That's what I'm going with, Watuaga. Some call it the Watuga. I say pronounce every letter. If you don't know, when in doubt, pronounce every letter. So Sencut Watauga for emotional support. Really trying to love this knife. I love everything about it, but the button lock actuation. It's sitting a little too deep in the handle, and then that convex cup is just a little too convex. And I know a lot of people like that, to have to really kind of bury your thumb in there to get it to close. I do not. But I understand why people do want that. It's because if you're really working hard with the knife, you don't want to disengage it just by power and by having your thumb riding up on there. So, sink it in a little bit and it will be more secure. And I get that. But when it comes to emotional support, you want ease, right? You want comfort. And, this is slightly missing the mark. I keep fantasizing about putting a drop of some kind of glue there that sets up quick enough that you still have a dome, and that dome could be what you press down. But then it just fades, and I'm okay again. All right, well, that's what I was carrying. What did you guys have on you? I had this Navaja, the white horse or the night horse. And by the way, this asymmetrical, that's beyond EDC's mid-tier line. This particular knife is an exclusive to Smoky Mountain Knife Works. They're coming out with another really cool one, an exclusive with Tops Knives called the Modern Gladius. Have you guys seen that? That one looks really cool. So yeah, got the little bro, got the ditch pick. This thing is sweet, ridiculous. And then the Watuwaga by Sencut. Byron, good to have you here, Byron. Carrie is an off-grid Enforcer XL Red Dawn edition. Off-grid all-day necker, very nice. RC Applejack or Rosecraft Applejack in Milwaukee Fastback 6-in-1. That's a great carry. I've had my Enforcer out a lot over this past week. It's been kicking it on my other table, and I've just been picking it up and using it a lot. Such a great knife. JVF says, carried one of my CJRB RIA at work today, and now carrying the Civivi Sokoke. What is that one? What is the Civivi Sokoke? It's hard for me to remember any of these names after a while. James Moore, good to see you here, sir. Pocket check, Arius with copper dust show scale. That sounds beautiful. And waiting for a mini. Those minis, I'm excited to pick one up at Blade Show and check that out, because I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be buying one or owning one, but I would like to check them out, because the Koenig Arius is just a sublime knife, and I would love to check out the small version. And Conway, good to see you here. And an old Buck 703. I'm pretty sure it's older than I am. I love that. Carrying something that's old, and as old as you or older. Colin, how's it going? Colin Maison Pierre. Hey, Bob. He says, hey there, Bob. He is going to be loaning me well, you'll see it. I'll show it off, but I'm very excited to check that out. But in the meantime, I have this Royal, also by Colin, and I am digging it so much. Kubi does a great job, and Colin does a phenomenal job. Really awesome knife. If you want to get into a CM design for less to start you off, go check out the Royal by Kubi. Shed Knives, good to have you here, sir. Hi, Bob. Hope all is well, and great to see you live. Well, it's great to have you here, Jack. Shed Knives, I showed you the 2023 Tonto Stout Outdoors knife that myself and my daughters had a good time with. That actually was the knife that processed the wood that we burned to create charcoal for a science fair project for my older daughter. So layers upon layers. Yeah. This old sword says, today's carry, yes, Pinkerton Feral Pikal. Such a cool, that one is kind of in keeping with that sort of a reverse Tonto, recurve Pikal. This, by the way, I got from Dave in a trade. Great knife. But you got to check out Dave's video of this thing. It is gorgeous. Pinkerton Feral Pikal. Oh, I love the handle on that too, by the way. LT, Love Them Knives Result Button Lock. That's a cool one, and a big one like that. Kubi Giant Pilates. Pilates, am I pronouncing that right? I'm not sure I know that one. 10.5 inches overall. Civivi Spiny Dogfish. That's a cool one. Gavco design. And the Nightcore EDC 27 Flat Tactical. Okay, 3,000 lumen. I think this is one that I want. It's shaped more like a Wrigley's spearmint gum package than it is like a circular. Is that right? I'd love to get one of those. Nice carry there, Dave, as always. Spyderco Masad Ayub. That's cool. I like the angle to the blade. I like the angle of the blade to the handle on that one, with custom scales from Vantage Point Knife Works. So we know him. That's Tom Engelson. Used to be Knives and Such on Instagram. He is awesome. His work is awesome. Great to have you here, Yoda. Thanks for joining us. Giant Mouse Farley in brass today, says Colin. what is the Farley? Which one is that? Giant Mouse to me, because I don't own any of them, they tend to blend together. A lot of them are in the same lines, and they're all beautiful. I know that. Uh, I like that recent one with the long clip point blade. That is that's a real beauty. Will B says Grimsmo Norseman Protec California Custom Knife Show Mordax, the Spyderco Manix 2 XL, excellent. The Big Lighter XL, Civivi Chevalier, the Spyderco Ronin 2. He's got a cool custom sheath with that. The Riot XO, the Olight Baton 3. That's another one people were recommending to me over on KC's show on Monday. That was awesome, by the way. I had such a great time. Casey's a stand-up dude, and so is Brant from Backpack B. Olight Arkfeld, that sounds cool. I'm not sure which one that is. And the Karis Volt V2. You may have noticed I took special attention to two people's flashlights. Yes, it's happening. And all I mean by that is I would like to get a flashlight. I got that one that's really awesome, but it is a little big to throw in the pocket. I would like to get something bright, offensively bright, but that fits in the pocket easily. But I'm not fetishizing them like I do knives. FEMA Camp Etiquette for Dummies. Good to have you here, sir. Just researched the ditch pick. Nice knife. Make sure you spell it right when you Google it. Yeah, no doubt. And Wingard Wearables makes that whole thing difficult for us with their actual product called the Dick Pick. It is a cool pick. I got to give them that. B. Walsh, good to have you here, B. Started day with 15V Shaman in pocket and switched to the Tactile Maverick. What do you think of the Maverick? The USPS delivered it. Oh, beautiful. The Maverick is the Richard Rogers one, right? How are you liking it? I'm sensing mixed reviews. Sensing because I have yet to watch any of them. I'm going off of headlines. And yeah, I know. Headlines are there to deceive. They're to reel you in. But let me know what you think. Blade Ogre carrying the Rosecraft Castoria, the Bradford Guardian 4. Very curious about the Guardians. I've never carried one, but I spent a long time at the Bradford booth last year. Still haven't gotten one though. Gavco Thresher, very nice. Smith & Son Mudbug, the Tactical Dreadeye. Okay, the Dreadeye is the fixed one. That is also a new tactile knife, and that's Matthew Christensen. Beautiful Tonto design. GEC 38 Special, very nice. Queen Slimline Trapper and a Marcus Williamson Steelworks Stellar XL and a Finch Lucky 13. So JVF, this is right here. This is what you're talking about. This is a man who carries a bunch of knives, and I respect it. Each one of those knives takes care of a different task. Shed Knives today, Kershaw Leak, a classic. The 2023 Shed Knives Sheep's Foot in Tiffany Blue. Ooh, nice. And 4 of the same pen. What pen? What pen? Gotta know. Howdy, fellas. What's up, Ben? Kep McNessart says, today I carried my LT Wright knives next gen 8025. I don't know the next gen. Excuse me. Demco 80 20.5. Jack Wolf Knives Venom Jack, speak of the devil, and the Wingard Wearables Quill. That's a nice, I like the spread you got there. Just Me, good to see you, Just Me. That Shaman 15V was for sale today for $270. Crazy. So what were they going for? Was it just a very limited amount, but still going for like the usual, 180 or 168 or something? Kane A, good to see you here, Kane. Evening, everyone. So you had the Steingraber Performance Knives Shark in 4V. I have the same knife in Crewwear, and that is an amazing cutting instrument. The Jason, I'm saying Guthrie. People were saying Guthrie, but I don't know why. I don't know if that's just something that someone said, and then so Jason Guthrie Scout 2.0 and Romano Lanny's clip for today. Interesting you say Lanny's clip because I have a Benny's clip right here. JVF says the Civivi Sokoke is, that one. That is a nice one. Is the new Ray Laconico design. comfortable micarta handles. Beautiful. That is one that has turned my eye. But I have to say, Ray Laconico in general, his designs really, I think they're almost always right on. Mark Herrera says off-grid Viper, excellent. I've been digging my Viper. This thing is a really, really good knife. I've been carrying it a lot. I need to do a tabletop close-up of it. I'm digging this thing. Mark Herrera says off-grid Viper and the Lion Steel Gitano in green micarta. That means gypsy in some language. I looked it up, and that also emulates the Navaja. Excuse me. Hang on, guys. Hang on. Allergies. My my eyes today were the worst. We have like this yellow mist in the air here, and it settles on everything. The giant mouse Farley is a slip joint, a long blade, could be the Sonoma. Yeah, I do like the Sonoma, but the one I'm thinking of is not the Sonoma. The Sonoma is more of a drop point, I think. Flip Solo says today's carry the TRC Classic Freedom Apocalypse. Oh, wait. The TRC Classic Freedom. And that is a dagger, right? Apocalypse finish and the copper tactile knife company Bear. That TRC, I know their first knife out, I think was a dagger, but now they have several other sort of combat-like knives. Dissentient 01 says, got bored and sharpened the false edge on my tie light today. Oh, you don't know how that warms the cockles of my heart. Everyone should take their tie light and the portion that doesn't rise above. So a good portion of that swedge, I think, sits in the handle. Sharpen it. Do yourself a favor. Do future you a favor. You never know when you're going to need a sharpened swedge. I love it. Boba Fettuccini says, Boker Magnum Lil Friend and Buck Knives 263 Highline. 263 Highline. Traveled light today. The Highline. I'm trying to remember which one that is. Will B says, I keep my Baton 3 in the 5th pocket and my Arkfeld in my shirt pocket when I'm at work. So the Arkfeld, I think, is that flat one, right? I get confused, the torches and such. Byron, has anyone in the chat picked up the Jim Skelton Bladeworks 2U Knives flipper? Thoughts? I like the way that one has jigging. I'd definitely be interested in checking that out because I know how sort of particular he is. So I would imagine he pushed them to get, a great product. Boba says Blade Ogre might be a member of the Sardaukar. I don't know what that is. Is that some order of assassin or some order of weaponsmith from a different universe, perhaps? Shed Knives says the 4 pens, precise V7s. I'm with you. I've been using this pen since 1991. I've been, not this particular one, but this model. If they ever change it, I will be distraught. The V5 I like even better. Yeah, this is the V5. If they ever change that pen, I will lose it. James Moore says, what price range are you thinking of for a flashlight, Bob? I am thinking $100. I do not want anything that looks special. Black anodized aluminum is preferable, I guess. Something that can wear nicely and I won't feel bad about. But something powerful and something stroby but small. I'm interested in it as a dazzling, blind the bad guy kind of thing, as well as just a flashlight. Wilby says the Arkfeld is the flat one. They have 2 models, one with a laser. Yes, for instance, James, I would like a laser also. A laser pointer, and the other has a UV light. I have the UV variant. What would you use the UV light for? Is that something in your job? From Dune. Okay, broski. From Dune, broski. Yeah, my wife would have picked up on that. She's the sci-fi and fantasy person in the house, and she knows it all. Agent Orange Peel carried the first of all, good to have you here, Agent Orange. Carried the CRK Umnumzan Tanto. Have mine right here. I carried mine yesterday, as a matter of fact. And the Sabenza 21 Insingo. I need to get an Insingo in my life, I think. GEC Sodbuster, excellent. And the Okluma DCO in copper. I don't know the Okluma, but I feel like I've seen it written out now, like numerous times. Okluma. Got to get a clue on the Okluma. This old sword says, for your small but bright and tactical ready, go for the Olight Warrior Mini. All right. I took your last advice, Dave, and that's the fancy light I got for myself for Christmas. Hang on. Olight Warrior Mini. Olight. Is this one of the ones I wrote down? Okay. So, yeah. You might know this about me, but I'm a little old school. I'm not saying Siri, take a note. Beefer Baron, good to have you here, Beefer Baron. Hey guys, he says. Hey, how's it going, Beefer? Good to have you with us. Will B says, I sometimes use the UV light to spot grease points and bearings on my machines. Mainly, it's a freaking UV light. Always wanted one. Sweet, I gotcha. For me, it's the same thing with a laser. I love lasers. And it all goes back to a movie called The Osterman Weekend, which I saw even before The Terminator, I think. And those were the two movies where I first saw lasers on guns. And in The Osterman Weekend, I think they were on grease guns or something grease gun-esque, something like a Schmeiser or a grease gun where it had the long magazine in the front. But it was American, and it was something that was made in the 70s, kind of stamped like a grease gun. And I think they silenced it and used it a lot in the FBI and threw it down a sewer grate when they were done. That kind of gun. Anyway, saw a laser on it and always wanted one. Ben, how you doing, sir? Great to see you, man.
You too, Bob. I'm grainier than you. My lighting isn't the best, so you'll have to forgive me.
Oh, it's cozy. It's cozy lighting.
It's like a 70s film stock.
Yeah, exactly. So congratulations. You have something big coming out, literally. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I've got the little bro's big brothers coming out. I got the big bro. I got all the variants here. And I'm excited because it's been, it'll be 60 days from the date of my last drop. And, I like to keep the excitement going. So I'm back.
Yeah. A change in the rhythm. What was that about?
Well, that was COVID in the factory back in December. China was trying to keep the virus, under a lid, and viruses don't like to be kept under a lid. And so when it got out of their hands, they just let it go. And it took out, I think, everyone in the factory except like 2 people. And so it set them back about 3 weeks. But because I have monthly deliverables, there's not 3 weeks of slack. So
Right.
I had to make a decision between altering, like shifting my drop date, because right now I'm always dropping in the middle of the month on a Friday. I would have to shift that because the date I received the knives was going to change. And then when I looked at the schedule for the year and the way all the knife shows are situated, it's like I'm going to cause myself a forever problem if I change the schedule. So the solution was to skip a month and get back on track. So.
Well, Carco says, hola, fellas. Good to have you here, Carco. M4 Shaman and Arcane Abyss. Very nice. I love Arcane designs. Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it was an opportunity to fall back in love with everything else because I have this, developed this sort of rhythm. I'm one of the lucky folks that you send knives to check out and give reviews on. And, I'll carry one for an entire month, solid, and love it. And then maybe the last couple of days of the month, I go back and revisit older designs. For me, personally, this last month was a great opportunity to reacquaint. Like for me, I was getting back into the Cyborg Jack and way back to the gun stock. Why am I spacing on the name? But to me, it was a chance to catch up. So I don't think anyone felt any pain. I think it just built anticipation because those of us who have the little bro, man, I love this knife so much. And I'm really excited to get my big brother.
I think they're all the YouTube knives should land tomorrow, I think, for most of you guys. And I'm really excited to see what you think about it, because the thing that strikes me the most is that when you look at the specifications on paper, it's only 0.4 inches longer in the closed position. And like, if anybody said something like, oh, that's less than a half an inch, you think it's a really small measurement. But when you have these two knives side by side, that physical knife tells a different story than the numbers on paper, as far as how it feels in your hand and looks and everything. So I'm excited to hear your guys' opinion on these. And a lot of you guys have little bros, so be interesting comparison.
Yeah, no doubt. And good companion pieces. JVF says, love my javelina, Jack. He's over there in France. I'm sorry, man. He's over there in France. And so it's cool to know that your knives are going far and wide. He's got the micarta, as do I. Thanks for being with us again this night, Mr. Belkin.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for your support. And it's an honor for me, the biggest honor, to be an international brand.
That is cool. Yes. Flip Solo says the Nebula Big Bro Jack looks like my next pickup. Yeah, so let's take a look at these covers.
So here's wow. Nebula. I apologize for the lighting, guys. I struggle with lighting in this room. But this is the Nebula. So this is a fat carbon. And when I started ordering fat carbon in the beginning, this one kind of scared me off a little bit, because it's like really, it's out there, you know?
Yeah.
And it really stands out from the rest of the fat carbon stable. But once I saw that the community was really into these funky carbon fibers, my confidence started to grow. This one is a sunset orange. Yeah, the light's just not going to do this any favors, unfortunately. But here, let me grab a flashlight, Bob.
Sure.
Maybe that'll help.
So Ben sent out a video talking about this new knife, and that sunset orange carbon fiber was the one that he was showcasing, and it's got like 3 shades of orange swirled into that beautiful carbon fiber. And this is the one that you had in the video.
Yeah, let's see if I can improve this for you guys any kind of way, shape, or form. I'm just kind of washing it out. I really need to get better lighting going on in here, but let me try this. Hold on. So sunset orange. Try it down here. Yeah, well, it's just not a good day to show you guys what these things look like. But what I will say is, if you guys want to see specifically what these look like, for the first time on my website, if you go to the product listings, we took a high resolution YouTube video of my Donnie, who does my social media now, handling the knife. Good camera work, good lighting, not this situation. So, don't let this be the best representation of what these look like right now. That was sunset orange. This is dark matter copper.
This looks beautiful. This looks like a natural material to me.
Yeah, it's burly looking, like a burl almost.
Yeah, that is a beautiful material.
So,
and on this one, copper. You got one more.
I got one more, and then we got gecko, which is blue, yellow, and green. So this is a camo carbon material. This is camo. Sunset orange is camo. And then the 2 fats are going to be Nebula and dark matter copper. Those are the 2 fat carbons. Lithuanian product. Camo carbon's an American carbon fiber out of California. And then last but not least, the last of the micartas right here. Black canvas.
Yes. Last of the micartas.
Yep.
That's cool. Look at this. Look at this product page. I'm really psyched that I have a bunch of the micartas, but I'm also very excited to expand my collection on the next round and buy some of these exotic carbon fibers, because I don't have them in my I have a couple of fat or a couple of camo carbons that you sent me, but these are not regular items or regular materials for me. So but I've developed a taste for them through your knives. So I'm excited I know you're gonna once you regroup and reconnoiter, you're gonna re-release a lot of these models with different blades or different configurations. But one thing is for sure, you're going to be continuing with these covers.
Yeah, and I've been working for a while now on prototyping some different handle materials. That's been interesting because you don't always get the result you want necessarily, because not all these factories have experience working with all these materials. And so whether or not it's got the fit that I want, whether or not the finish is what I was looking for, there's been some of those challenges. And so there's back and forth. There's, okay, let me collect this information from the manufacturer of this material about how to machine it or how to finish it, or, hey, this is the problem we're having. Can you help me troubleshoot it? And then I need to get subsequent knives made out of this stuff, subsequent prototypes, to make sure I try not to like roll the dice, right? It's like, it was about 80% of the way there. Here's the solution. Let's press play. It's like, no. You know?
Hey, Shane, good to have you here. Could you pop my perspective has definitely evolved. I care nothing about looks anymore. Performance over pretty. That is a maturation. At least it would be in my case. For me, pretty always matters. JVF says black gray matches so good with orange color. Awesome carbon choices. And Jim, can you go 2 back from here? I missed one, and I think he was greeting Ben or saying something to Ben. But Ben, you were talking about prototyping materials. What do you actually mean by that?
So in other words, let's say there's some materials that I want to try to add to the stable.
Okay.
Well, the way I like to do it is I like to source it myself and send it over. Okay. If they have not worked with it before, then it's a first attempt. And anytime you try something for the first time, you don't always get the desired result.
Okay. I thought you meant prototyping, like coming up with materials yourself, like commissioning carbon fibers.
No, not necessarily brewing something. I guess what I'm saying is prototyping, maybe it's not the right word, but we're attempting to implement additional materials that are out on the marketplace. And because they have limited experience working with it, there's a back and forth process that needs to be undertaken in order for me to be satisfied ultimately.
Yeah, and I would imagine that there's some attrition rate with the materials that's got to be a little bit painful. Hollywood Tactical says
very costly.
Oh yeah, that would just to figure it out. Unfortunately, I have to be a guest on a podcast right now, but hopefully I'll be back before you end. Well, have an awesome conversation on that other podcast. Hollywood, good to have you here. B. Walsh says, I went to a local quote unquote cutlery club meeting that turned out to be a bunch of World War II vets that like to collect case knives. They were floored by my Jack Wolf Javelina Jack. They all wanted one. How
man,
cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's amazing. I really appreciate that feedback. That's great. You know, it's like, if you can get an old timer on board, man, like I'm doing something right, because they've seen a lot over the years.
Yeah, I love that scene that you just painted in our mind too, of a some sort of a cutlery club filled with a hall filled with old timers looking at knives. That sounds, man, I do that all day. Dion, good to see you here, Dion. Hello, King Junkie, Jim, Ben, and you junkies assembled. Stab, slice, chop that button. Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Dion.
Yeah,
hey, Alex, good to see you here, sir. Watch and Cut channel. That's Alex. Just wanted to say a quick hello, gentlemen. Hope all is well. Hope all is well with you, sir. Good to have you, man. Always a pleasure. Ryan's got stuff. Says hello, everybody. Hello, Ryan.
What's up, Ryan?
So, hey, Eugene, good to have you here. Also, I like your K. Something very classic about that avatar. I like people's avatars. Autumn Wind, good to have you here. Evening, he says. So with the big bro, is it big bro or big brother? I won't know until I see it written on my own sticker.
Big bro.
Big bro.
Big
So
bro
is the
Jack.
big
Little bro Jack.
okay? So is the big bro Jack in running with the Benny's clip for size?
In its length, yes. But in its distance across the bolster here, and
Yep.
subsequently its blade height here, not quite as big. There's probably a couple more millimeters to, two to, I can't remember off the top of my head, at least 2 millimeters thicker the big bro is here, and that's going to translate to being thicker down here. So it's
Right,
more
right.
it's more compact, and you'll feel that in your hand. By no means is this a small knife, but when we're talking slip joints, like the Benny's clip, it's pretty big slip joint
Yeah.
knife, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Especially this width that you talk about from the top of the bolster to the bottom. But just for length's sake, that's a pretty fair comparison right there, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I'm really looking forward to this. I do love the sleeve board pattern. I think it's probably my all-around favorite. I do like a trapper handle, and I like all these different ergonomics that are set up through these different style handles. The sow belly javelina, I love. This is kind of like an angular sow belly to me. That's kind of how my hand thinks about it.
mm-hmm.
But something about that sleeve board is, so neutral and so perfect.
It's really, I agree, Bob. It's simple, it's elegant, and with just bringing up a couple lines in, round at the top, round at the bottom. It's, I don't know what the right words are, but I've always been attracted to it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sort of like how your eyes are naturally attracted to like a dagger. And Conway says, my part of town, Akron, Ohio, which is very close to my parents' part of town, we have the Western Reserve Cutlery Association. Our annual knife show is coming up in May. All are welcome. That is awesome. I will tell my brother and my parents, because I will not be there in May, but I would love to check that out. Anthony, good to have you here, Anthony. What a nice guy. The knives are so cool too. I wonder what he would do with a fixed blade. Any ideas about a fixed blade,
Well,
Ben?
yeah, I would say, am I coming in
Your
clear,
bag,
Bob? It looks,
two shakes. Oh yeah, there you go. There you go. Have you ever
and
considered a? Can you hear me?
yeah, I hear you.
Check. Testing. Okay. Have you ever considered making a fixed blade for Jack Wolf knives?
I've been thinking a lot about it. I would probably lean towards something smaller for everyday carry, because I think that's the type of product the market is used to buying from me, a pocket knife.
Yep.
I don't have a lot of experience with carrying a larger fixed blade. I own a bunch of them. They usually end up in a drawer.
Yeah.
And that's not to say I don't like them. I literally have a drawer full of them. I love to buy them. But I think I get more utility out of smaller knives because that's my lifestyle. So as you could tell, I've really stuck with like what I know and what I feel like I have a strong understanding about, at least in the beginning. So that's probably the way I'd lean, but it's a different product. There's different considerations. And so I would be very careful not to make something that people would be disappointed in. So just really, it's a matter of finding the time and making sure the execution is acceptable.
Flip Solo just suggested a bird and trout, and that style of knife seems very much in keeping with Jack Wolf. Or I was thinking some sort of a fancy steak knife that you could take, something that would be within a similar form factor. Yeah, I agree. Like, it'd be weird if you came out with some big giant combat knife, or it would also be weird because you are so methodical and calculated as an entrepreneur. Like, I've never seen you like it's been a very steady growth and a very conscious, growth for you, and it wouldn't seem in keeping with your brand to do something, uh, so different from a pocket knife.
Yeah, I think it would be if I wanted to
Hey,
produce
Jeremiah.
a large combat knife at some point, there'd have to be a progression
Yeah,
to get to that point
yeah,
that I would be comfortable with. Um, I've said it before. I'm Jack Wolf Knives. I'm not Jack Wolf Slip Joints. So I do want to be a knife company with a lot of different offerings at different price points. But hopefully, God willing, I'm doing this for the next 40 years. So I don't have to
yeah.
come out with like an entire catalog. I don't have to have Cold Steel's catalog in my first 24 months of business.
I think Bob's trying to say you don't miss. Well, yeah, I mean, I have to say, that is how I feel so far. I haven't felt a miss yet. You know,
Well, you guys don't see the misses. They happen behind the curtain.
right,
I
right.
try to keep the misses out of the public eye and just present to you guys my best performance and the best I have to offer. But that doesn't mean there's not a struggle on a daily basis back here.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. You're making it look easy, and people who are great at things make it look easy, no matter how hard they are. Dissentient says, keep it traditional and do a small EDC Kephart. Let me show you these uh, really quick, Ben. This
Yeah.
all right. Well, first I got this from Steve Kalari, Super Steel Steve Kalari Custom Knives. I got a 8-inch chef's knife that I love. It's 16th of an inch thin, full flat ground. It slices even when it's dull. It's amazing. So I got his paring knife recently, and he designed paring knives to actually be good for pairing and not fatigue you. He was complaining about how there is no set sort of form factor to a paring knife. It's just sort of small. And that most paring knives come with very small, thin handles. And after a while, you cramp up if you're actually using it to pare. So anyway, long and short of it is, I knew that we needed a small utility knife in our kitchen that's like thin and slicey. And so I got this and I loved it so much. By the way, that's Tiffany and Antique, this beautiful antique micarta. He really hooked that up beautifully. But a friend of mine is turning 50 actually today, and he's in Jamaica, so I couldn't give this to him. But he made this like lickety split within a week and sent it out to me. And look at that. Beautiful, beautiful liners and micarta there. I'm so excited to give this to him. Yeah, really thin, very, very nicely done. I think Steve is a really good knife maker. From the two knives that I have experienced from him, this and the 8-inch chef's knife, he really sort of puts his money where his mouth is, and his mouth is considerable. He has said a lot of things and done a lot of criticizing. So he, man, his knives are held to that standard, it seems.
Very cool. I had a chance to meet him in Atlanta last year. He was perfectly friendly to me and had a nice conversation with him. And one thing I've learned is that when it comes to chef's knives in particular, guys who have experience in the kitchen, that translates, as long as they're a decent craftsman, to a better chef's knife, because its performance is really, I mean, I would say aesthetic really going to take a backseat to performance with a knife that's going to be used for hours,
Yes.
for
Yeah.
hours. So it looks good.
Every day, the step bro Jack was it. That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
That's in your list of misses there.
Right, exactly.
I
That
love
one
it.
didn't go over too well.
JVF, love the thick handle. It should be great to do the food stuff. Yes, exactly. I love that. Costa, former Marine and MD. Costa Carvunas, former Marine and MD. Costa says, what's up? Hope all is good. Well, it's great to have you here, man. All is great. We're just talking about the new release coming out now. It's coming out tomorrow.
No, next Friday, April 14th.
Oh, I'm sorry, next Friday, April 14th. Right, it's usually mid-April. So, what time and where?
So 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. Dealers are listed at jackwolfknives.com under the authorized dealer page. They're not available on my website. I sell at this time exclusively through authorized dealers. I think there's, I should be able to say this number particularly, but there's about 20 in the US, and I've got international dealers as well. Their drop times vary on the 14th due to, factors that complicate things with time zones and whatever. But ultimately, on April 14th, if you want one of these knives, it's not the situation anymore where they're going to sell out in the first 5 minutes, because I've been able to bring up the production numbers over the year.
Oh,
So, some dealers sell out faster than others, but, you guys are knife savvy if you're watching Bob's podcast. If, Blade HQ or DLT doesn't have them, work the list. You'll find one.
Like that. Work the list. Okay,
Work the list.
let's look at the materials again, but this time without the flashlight, because I think your computer lighting was actually doing it justice. I want to see these different.
It's just the nuance is getting lost here, because there's like
Sure.
a peach in here. Let me try to get the angle. There's peach and like blaze orange, or like a hot orange in this one. And then this is nebula. I mean, look, this one's super bright, and it's still washing really cool out. But you got red, white, and blue going on here. And then gecko, green, yellow, and blue. And then we got what am I forgetting? Dark matter copper, which is like copper burl, basically. And then black canvas micarta. The last of the micartas right here.
So
do
you find with the carbon fibers, do you find that people what's more popular, cool colors or warm colors, or do you think that's not something you can track?
I can't answer that for sure, because the experiment isn't perfect, because the model changes every time. But I thought the strong preference would be for the real bright and flashy stuff, but it's not always the case. And I think, aside from a couple carbon fibers I probably won't make again because they didn't perform as well as the majority of the others, it's pretty evenly spread. There's a couple that I think are always going to be winners, and that's fat carbon purple haze. People just love that one. Like, I'm sure you could beat it to death, so I don't want to do that, but I feel like you could put that stuff on anything and people will buy it just about. And based on the initial feedback, I'll see when the sales start, but this nebula has gotten a lot of people's attention, so I think this is going to be right up there with the purple haze.
Yeah, that nebula looks really attractive. To me, it looks like just dream with me for a minute, but it looks like the wall, like an old European wall, where there have been a million coats of paint and different placards and things, and I love that look. I know that seems out of left field, but I think it looks really, really kind of beautiful and antique.
Yeah, and I've had several people say it reminds them of Fordite.
Fordite, what's that?
So we should have Jim look it up. But what Fordite is, so you'll see it on slip joints. Maybe it doesn't translate over to the modern knives as much. So in the car factories where they paint cars, the paint collects in like a drip tray, basically, and it hardens into layers of paint, and they make knife handles out of it, jewelry out of it, all kinds of stuff.
Yes, I just saw that like maybe a year ago. I heard of that. Steve the Ripper says he loves the dark matter carbon fiber. This adder bites. Good to have you here. This adder. Ben from Jack Wolf. Yes, indeed. The very same. The very same. Did you change your name, sir? Because I recognize the picture, but not the name. Fordite. Look at this. This is cool. Yes. I could see that, yeah, that nebula does look a bit like this, and that is kind of what I was talking about too. That sort of just, what do you call it? Sort of uh, that. I'm trying
Yeah.
to, yeah, you
It's
know what I
just
mean.
kind of like
Relic.
random. Yeah, it's just you get layers of color at random, and the colors of car paint, so red and blue and white. You probably end up with more of that because more cars get painted that color. When you go,
Yeah.
on the Facebook group, sometimes you'll see guys selling like big blocks of it, and it'll say like from the Jeep factory, X amount of dollars per pound, and they're just
Wow.
weird shapes, because they were chipped off something. And if you ever feel it, like at a knife show, when you go to Blade and you're walking around, you'll find some at the table with the material suppliers, and it's like rubbery. So to
Oh,
work
yeah.
with it, you have to be careful because you can like pull it apart. It just looks cool.
So this is the second. So Will B is mentioning, I don't like purple a lot, but I love fat carbon purple haze. And then the comment right before was, please bring back the midnight. Let's see. This Adder Bite says, bring back the midnight jack in purple haze, fat carbon, please. And thank you. He says, yeah, the midnight jack
Noted, my
is
friend.
sweet. That is a sweet one. Anthony says, Ben has a pretty sweet haircut as well. Very fitting. Excellent.
Thank you, Anthony. I've
Excellent.
been growing my mullet all year for you guys.
Hey, Paul. We got Paul Munko with us. Hello. What's up, guys? Hey, Paul. Congratulations on the clairvoyant. People are loving that knife. Just recently came out. They're loving it. So great to have you here, Paul. Eugene Krabs says, Fordite. How clever.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
right there in
Uh,
the name.
is it durable as a handle or does it risk chipping?
I don't own any, but I would presume, first of all, you're probably going to clear coat it when you're done. And I would presume that if you're looking for a durable material, it would not be your first choice. But I know people have been using it for a long time, so I think it's sufficient. But if you need a durable handle material, frankly, I don't think you can beat micarta for a hard use
Yeah.
durable knife.
It could be that the Fordite works well as a cover more than a handle scale. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Says Paul. Paul, of course, our pleasure for sure. But maybe just as a thin cover in between on a slip, might be on something that's gonna get a lot of torsion and grip.
Yeah, and it's not the
Fordite,
kind of thing
like
I
it.
probably would be. I don't think I'd be able to implement it. It's something that a custom knife maker is going to use. But it's once you know what it is, it's like unmistakable, and it's really cool. Let's
B
see
Wall
here.
says, Ben, I
Yep,
know the artwork
read
will
that.
change every year, but are you going to circle back to some knife designs in the future, or will you always be releasing new handle designs with each new release?
Well, man, I wish I had the chops to release a new handle design with every release, but no. To answer your question, I will be re-releasing existing patterns, and sometimes it will essentially be a re-release of the knife the way it was the first time. Because, for example, the Benny's clip that Bob showed, I'll never put a different blade on that knife because the Lanny's clip has a saber ground clip point blade. Now I could change the bolster configuration, but I wouldn't substantively change the blade of that knife because then it's really no longer a Lanny's clip.
Right.
However, a knife like the Big Bro or the Little Bro right here, this knife could have a spear point, a Warncliffe, a sheep's foot. So whether or not I change the blade shape on the second release, that's to be determined. I will always attempt to change something about the knife on its subsequent releases. I don't think I can make that a hard and fast rule, but that's the intent. But I want these patterns to like live on for the next several decades. So yes, more to come.
And a pattern that you definitely want to live on is the Cyborg Jack, because That is a pattern completely of your invention. And by the way, it's extremely ergonomic. It's a great platform or pattern. It's a great pattern. And I think that I am not the only one in saying that this, at some point in some iteration, I know you've heard this before, wants a Tonto blade.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the, top of the list requests I get for that knife. Is a lot of people
Yeah.
look at that knife and they say, "Man, put a Tonto blade on it." It's just like, I hear you loud and clear, guys. I I don't have a ton of experience with Tontos. I don't own a lot of them, but they're certainly aesthetically interesting. So I've got a learning curve to decide how I want to draw a Tonto because it's a rabbit hole and I've never like really gone down it yet.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, someone else, Eugene Krebs, I think just asked, when's the Tonto coming? And so yeah, Paul Munko says, awesome design. Yeah. So this being your knife could have all manner of, you could do all sorts of things designing blades that have never been on. Like the only Tontos I've ever seen on traditional style knives are from Jared Oser. I think that's the only person I can think of doing a Tonto. But why not? So that's the beauty. That's the beauty part of it, especially that one, because with the Cyborg Jack, you could do literally anything, and there's nothing that could be wrong with it. Now, it might
Now
not.
it's got to fit. It's got to
Well,
fit, and it
yeah,
can't look weird. So there are constraints. But you're right. And what's neat about that is I could have some futuristic interpretation of the classic blade shapes and get away with it because it'll match the handle.
yeah, yeah. This, by the way, is such a nice clip point. That is a beautiful clip point blade on this knife. Eugene Krebs says a one-arm jack would be cool, in my opinion, too. Well, there are a lot of cool things, if you don't mind my my saying, Ben. There are a lot of like really cool ideas, but you are in the business of selling knives, and I remember once suggesting how cool it would be. I think it was the last time you were on the show. How cool it would be to do a spay blade, a single bladed spay blade in one of these, and you were like, "Yeah, it would be cool, but are people going to want to to spend the money on maybe one fancy slip joint being a spay bladed blade?"
Yeah. It's constantly when you're an entrepreneur, every day you're taking some kind of risk. And you have to get really comfortable with taking risks, or else it's maybe not the right way to spend your time. But you spend a lot of time thinking about risk and your tolerance to certain risk and the reward of taking certain risks, and you weigh them with the risks you're otherwise taking. So when it comes down to doing off the wall patterns like one arms, elephant toes,
Mhm.
a spay blade, a standalone spay blade, it's like I see those as being a higher risk pursuit than clip points, worn cliffs, sheep's feet, and spear
Yeah,
points, you
yeah.
know? And it doesn't mean I'll never do it, but I have to look at where I'm at right now and what the cost is of a dud, you know, or
Mhm.
something that's just a slow burn, perhaps. If you're lucky, it's a slow burn and not a dud. And so, yeah, that's where I get a little risk averse when it comes to really trying to branch out into the real niche stuff. That's not to say in 5 years or something, if I'm lucky enough to be a household name and people are just really happy with whatever I do, I'd be more comfortable to do it.
Yeah. Well, and there is a reason why spay blades are often, like almost always, secondary blades. There are secondary uses, in knives, and you make single bladed knives. So in a sense, it makes sense for each time you release one, you have the primary blade, is the blade,
Right.
instead.
And if
And so you're not
a
going to just
spade
put a,
blade, right, a spade blade was for cutting the nuts off an animal. So
yeah,
it's like, and then you put that blade away, So
yeah,
it's like it's got limited utility because it has a almost non-existent tip.
yeah. And when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail, and a spade blade is not the thing you want for that metaphor.
Right,
Blade
exactly.
Ogre says, if the spade blade is like the 1929 blade, that could work great. The Jack Wolf EDC Fixie would be what I want the most, though. Yeah,
Yeah, he's
well,
talking about the Finch 1929, and it's kind of a clip point, but it's definitely in the spade blade realm. I saw a spade blade that a custom slip joint maker made. I just was scrolling Facebook, and there it was. And the aesthetic of this spade blade was so freaking cool, man. Like, it just had this crazy like swoop to it and a huge belly. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so freaking cool. And I took I saved the picture. But then I say to myself, like, is this the kind of thing a few oddballs like us are just
yeah,
so attracted to? But the majority of the market's like, pass.
that's I think so. This is a Rough Rider, but I always thought that this was a very nice looking spade blade. Here, let me put this under the camera here. This is actually a very nice Rough Rider. This was like an $18 knife, but it's got nice bone, and I think that that's a cool looking spade blade with that belly and such. But again, would I have gotten this knife if it didn't have a clip point, a main blade, And just like you wouldn't take a pen blade, a tiny pen blade, and then put it in a full size frame because it's a
Right.
secondary blade, you know.
Exactly. And I'm sitting here thinking, I've never seen a single bladed knife. Yes, I have. GEC has some spade blade, single blade boys' knives. They do have them. It's the only time I've ever freaking seen one. And when they first came out, dude, those things sat. The TC Barlows that
I
had the
yes.
spade blade, they
Yep.
sat. There's called a New Day. There's one called the New Day, and then the other one, something similar. There's an Evergreen Pickbone one, and it sat forever.
Now you get a handsome reward for that knife now.
Absolutely.
I have a number 15 Farm Boys knife. So it's got the spade blade and the it's got the classic trapper setup with the spade blade and the clip point. JVF says, "Will you try to revisit versions from some other countries' classics?" JVF is from France, so maybe like the Legil style knife.
Yeah, if it resonates with me, and I think that it would have appeal and it would fit in with my brand identity, I'd certainly be interested in pursuing that. Um, you know what I've thought? We're talking about French knives. I would love. I don't have the design chops for this, or would even know how to set it up. But some kind of fancy Opinel. You say Opinel or Opinel? Someone educate me on that correctly. But imagine like a titanium Opinel with like the twist lock with like
Yeah.
a detent mechanism or something. So it was like had a really satisfying glide and thunk in and out of lock, and some kind of hollow ground sick blade that had like almost a hydraulic feel of a CRK, like a top
Yeah.
tier Opinel. I would love to
I'm
have something like
sold.
that. Yeah, it would be cool.
Cold Steel way back in the day made their version of the collar locking knife, and you can still find them on. It's like a tactical Opinel or Opinel. Actually, JVF, is it Opinel or Opinel? If you could let us know. I used to say Opinel, and then I started saying Opinel as if it's like more authentic, but I have no idea. Maybe let's see. JVF says maybe from other countries too. I'm not thinking about mine. Like the
If it's
Navaja.
if it's if it's too obscure, I probably wouldn't be interested in it at this stage of the business because my market is I think I'm about 80% domestic sales, 20% European. And so, if it's something that and Americans are not always the most cultured people in the world, I don't mean to offend anyone, but some of this stuff that might be from other countries that's a little more obscure, people probably don't even know it exists. So it's just more of a risk.
That's an interesting question here. B. Walsh asks, will you always do a half stop or have you considered a quarter stop? are there technical challenges in doing one over the other? So I guess a quarter stop would be like that, and
No, I think he means if you're
like
at
that.
full open, it'll stop at like 45 and then go
Oh,
all the
oh,
way
oh.
down. I have a Patty gave me a knife. Let me go grab it real quick. It sort of has something like that.
Is that I guess open L, but I don't know how to write the sound. Oh man, JVF. Yeah, we know how to spell it.
Is it
Anthony
OH
says,
or AH?
he says, Anthony says, I say open L. Yeah, that's what I say too.
So Steven gave me this,
Oh, cool.
and I guess it goes pretty close to 90, but this is, I guess I'm thinking a quarter would be about there. But this knife, when you play with it, it's got a longer travel to get down than it does from here to here. And I think you can see it. See, it's
Yeah. That's
but
a nice knife.
nonetheless, it's really cool, man. It's a Taylor's Eyewitness, it's called.
Taylor's
And it's from Sheffield, and it's like unlike anything else I own, but it's just neat. It's got a really cool pinched bolster, and
Okay.
I forget what kind of wood it is, some kind of burl wood.
That's a beauty. So JVF just came on and said, yes, it's open L.
Open L, thank you, because I've been mispronouncing that ever since I heard it.
Hey, Mutiny, good to have you here.
To answer his question, I would say I don't think it would be any technically more challenging to design than half stop, because you've got the spring and you've got the tang and you rotate it and then it's flat there. So it's like a similar exercise to design it. I'm just strongly biased towards a half stop. I just love them. And I feel like if I designed a quarter stop, it would just feel unusual to me.
B. Walsh says, yes, a quarter stop gives a little extra room for fat fingers. He said, that's interesting. Yeah, I could see that. Hi, sir, says Mutiny. Mutiny is I believe is in Iran, right? Mutiny. Good to have you here with us, man. So the challenge of making a half stop, Sheffield, another great knife city. Yes. The challenge of having a half stop with the spring. Yes, he is from Iran. Good to have you here, man. I'd love to find out some about our culture's knives. I know there's some. I have a couple hanging here. But the challenge of doing this, is that anything other than fit and finish? Like, is there some utility in that?
I think there's some utility. I think
flush back to
it is. Yeah, it'll keep you from over driving it. However, I think half stop, no half stop, quarter stop, if you respect the knife and operate it properly, which would be not to keep your fingers in the path of it when I'm sitting here closing it a way I would never advise someone to do it one-handed. So I would say, is there a utility there? I'd say yes, but it's, building bad habits, potentially relying on that, because all it takes is getting a little bit startled or pushing a little too hard, and now you're bleeding.
Yeah. Yeah. Or just picking up a slip joint that doesn't have that feature and treating it like it does have a half stop and then regretting it.
Right. Yep. Sending it all the way home.
So Patty said something that was interesting, since you just mentioned him and we're holding up that knife he gave you. And this has something to do with our main topic of conversation, which is how one's perspective on collecting changes over a period of time and with their evolution of their tastes. And he was talking about his slip joint collection, his traditionals collection, and then his Jack Wolf knives. Like, he sets them apart, even though he recognizes that they are of the same, lineage. And I think that's a very interesting, that's kind of a very interesting thing, because without realizing it myself, I keep, for me, it's more of a space issue, but they don't reside with my other slip joints. Basically, my other slip joint collection had maxed out in the space it was in. And then when yours came, I started a new space. But but only these super modern fit and finish slip joints are in that category right now. Have you heard that?
No, but it makes sense to me in that they have they have a unique aesthetic and an appearance, which I guess is the aesthetic. And so, once you have a few of them, they're like a little family. So, if you were having them, like if guy has a dresser and he lays out his knives or something, right? Like I've got a shelf in my closet, I lay them out. Like I've got my CRKs together, I've got my Jack Wolfs together, I've got my GECs together, and maybe that's just
Yeah.
a little OCD, but I think they kind of, as a set, they kind of stand alone, which I think is cool.
Yeah, I agree. They're like a little pack, and that's corny and low hanging fruit. But mine are all kind of separated, and they all have to be in the same slip. I get really nervous if I have a bunch of them out, and I'm like, I got to make sure that they're going into the appropriate slip. Incidentally, my little bro has the best. Um, has kind of worn in the best in terms of fitting specifically that knife. I mean, they all fit specifically their knives, but that little bro is just locks into place. I love that.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. You know how you get kind of, I don't know, you get sort of particular about that kind of thing.
They're very personal items, right? Like
Yeah.
we carry them next to our bodies, like very personal items. So I feel like you are more observant about that kind of thing and you care more about that kind of thing versus like, you know, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something that's not so personal. Like, okay, when I come in and I hang up my coat, like I don't really care about the coat hanger. I just need a place to hang my coat.
Yeah. Yeah.
But my pocket knife, man, like it's there when I need it. So I got to make sure everything is just right.
Yeah, I like that, and the longer you have something, the more you use it, the more kind of soul it gains, or the more we become attached to it, I guess. But it's
Mm,
kind of the same thing.
absolutely. And if you think about like your grandparents or just people in your family who are no longer with you, usually the items that are the most prized possessions are the ones that they carried on them every day. Your
Yeah,
grandpa's pocket knife, his pocket watch, his wristwatch, like your grandmother's ring or her necklace. It's like,
yeah,
it's not the painting on the wall. It's not the car that sat in the garage. It's like those really personal items that they cared to take with them and have near their body every single day.
yeah. That's interesting that you put it that way. That is true, and I haven't quite thought of it like that. But now that makes me think like uh, hoarding knives, or I shouldn't say hoarding, but collecting them in the volume that I do. Um, you know, when my daughters are picking through my possessions, I'm going to have to stipulate kind of which ones are more meaningful to me because I got so many of them, and that's something that you know in that sort of I don't know, in that sort of sentimental way of looking at it, that's kind of a conundrum.
Yeah, and I think that, God forbid something were to happen, right? You didn't have a chance to have that conversation. And they're just looking at your stuff. Okay, well, oh, look at this one in the leather that's really worn in.
Yeah,
Like he must have carried that a lot. Oh, I want that one.
yeah,
Versus just like the stuff hanging on your wall, it's like kind of looks like museum stuff.
yeah,
It didn't have the same amount of attention, not attention necessarily, but it just wasn't as personal of an item as his
yeah. I haven't
well
carried
worn
any of
slip.
those to work. Not one
Right.
of them.
Like those don't move, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
But the ones that go in your pocket, those are the ones I think that carry the more sentimental value.
Yeah, I have two pocket knives that at one point I feel like I could have gotten some good money for on the resell, having not carried them for a long time, but they were the knives I was carrying when both of my daughters were born. I had one and then the other, and so I'll never get rid of them for that reason alone, even though I never carry either of those knives anymore. But the fact that they were with me and on my person at those seminal moments kind of means a lot.
Yeah. And if you tell the story to your daughters and they recognize those knives, and then they can have the appreciation of why it was important to you, then it will be important to them, and it might be important to their sons.
Yeah. B. Walsh, they have sons? No, I'm just kidding. B. Walsh says, any possibility for colored slips from Jack Wolf? I got a couple of Northwoods Leatherworks customs made to match my Jack Wolf knives. Ooh, that's nice.
From me, I don't, probably not, just because I really want you guys to support the artisan leather workers like Troy and like River at Sage Grouse. And, there's more. Of course, I'm sitting here drawing a blank. Lancelot, Joe over there.
Yeah.
I don't want to compete with them because that's what they do best. And it's really cool that you guys have been you guys buy my knives and then you want to upgrade the leather. So that's a win for the leather guys. And together we can provide you guys a really cool experience. So I don't want to screw that up.
Yeah, and not for nothing, and I don't think that this is what was implied in that last comment, but it's also like really nice to just get something like this. It's a very generous thing to go in packaging wise, and it's also a good default. Like maybe you are going to order that special colored leather, but in the meantime, before that gets here, you don't want to scratch up your Jack Wolf. And I remember before this all started and you were saying that you were going to supply each knife with a slip, my thought was like, yeah, but then it'll never get, banged up in your pocket, and it won't. And, but since I've gotten mine, I have not done that sort of pocket worn. There's something to be said for that too. I like the aesthetic of, say, my my Sabenza or my Umnumzan. They get those really nice snail trails and they get that sort of worn in, but I don't know, these pocket slips have, I don't know. I don't want that to happen to these knives. I want these to be used and to go in and out of those slips. I don't even know. I'm just babbling at this point. Anthony says, Bob, what's that?
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, he says, Bob, I kept getting your shorts. I think you should keep that up for sure. Oh, thank you, Anthony. Yeah, I put up a couple of those a week. I really enjoy doing those. Thank you.
The leather slip thing, of course, it comes like a lot of this stuff from my own biases. I have some slip joints that I just carry loose in my pocket, but my preference is a leather slip. And I think it does a few things for you. Of course, it protects the knife from scratches. It also keeps lint out of the joint, which is nice because if you carry loose, you are going to do more maintenance. But the other thing is because it's got some texture to it, it'll often keep the thing upright in your pocket instead of, going horizontal.
God, I hate that.
And I just find it, like, even though there is a little more bulk and a little more thickness, to just make for an improved care experience. And then I like to feel leather. It's a natural material.
Yeah.
And so you go from like a natural material to a colder, more man-made material. And it's just like, it's more sensory for me, and it's just a really cool experience. And I've made the video about it in the past. It's like, if you're going to carry a slip joint knife, you're not in a rush. This is not the knife you need to whip out and deploy with one hand. So you're going to take the extra 30 seconds, enjoy your slip, enjoy your knife, two hands, like slow your roll a little bit.
This Adderbite says, yeah, the lint trap is what I prefer is why I prefer slips with slip joints. No doubt. And then before that, Wonder Woman EDC said, love the Jack Wolf knives, Midnight Jack, Purple Haze. Wonder Woman, good to have you here. I don't recognize seeing you here, so it's great to have you. Mark Herrera, Bob or Ben, good to see you, Mark. Have you held the VC Edge interface? I would love to check out the build quality. I have not. The only person I know who has those is Dirk, I think. Have you experienced that?
No, and I mean, Bob, you're knowledge of all the knives on the market impresses me every time we get on one of these live streams because you've seen, you know, all this stuff way more than I do. I don't even know what that is. Is that a knife? Is that some kind of a sharpening system? What is that?
That's a now I hope I'm thinking of the right thing, because I also am prone to the senior moments here, but that is the carbon fiber. And did someone say, yeah, Dirk Werning, did
Hey,
someone
what's
say
up?
VC Edge? Okay, I thought that was it. Yes, this is the carbon fiber and steel
Oh,
blades, and Dirk's got a
so I
couple
think
of
I
them.
have seen that. Is that the one? It's like all carbon fiber, and then the cutting edge is an insert of steel of M390, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yep. Dirk can come back with the specifics. Have a Knife Day says maybe we should all meet at the pit. Of course, I agree. Have a Knife Day. Good
I'll
to
be
have you here. And I was wearing my 511 hat that you got me today all day. And man, thank you. I appreciate that. Whoa, did I miss a comment? I think maybe I did. Dirk says yes, exactly. Okay, so
I did handle that knife at Blade Show. Someone had it when we were out to dinner at this barbecue place. That thing is unbelievable. Like, first of all, the lightness of it is almost it's shocking. But it has like a really good detent, a nice snappy action, and it just looks like it came from outer space. And I know there's not a lot of them out there, so like if you can get one, I don't know how you couldn't like it. It's sweet.
Man, you've got two of them, don't you, Dirk? You have two different models, I think. I could be mistaken. I don't know, but yeah, that is a cool thing. Now, is there any danger of the steel and the carbon fiber coming separated somehow? Is this a knife that is to be like? Do you need to be gingerly with it, or yeah, Dirk, let me know. I mean, I'm sure the answer is no, but to me, it seems like, there's got to be some. Bob, I'll send mine to you to check out. We'll chat. Okay, awesome.
Very
Actually,
cool.
we can do. I know, Dirk, you want to check this out, so we can have them meet somewhere in the middle of the country as they fly to meet each other. You
Dang, look at
laughed as
that
if
thing.
this isn't a totally reasonable thing to own. This is the Work Tough Gear Puzon Predator Hunter, and designed by the same guy who made the Puzon Bowie, and it's a big knife they all had in Predator. The one. Oh, you know which
Yeah,
one I'm
very
talking about.
cool. Of course.
Anthony says, "Dude, that Bowie." I know. You Beaver Baron says, "Wow, awesome." I know. I caught myself looking at other Work Tough Gear knives and on DLT. I was like, just stop with the giant knives you don't need. And I said, of course, I'm not going to stop with the giant knives I don't need. What I got to stop now? Beaver Baron says, how much? It's not for sale, my man. No, I think you can find, I think they have one of each variety left on DLT. One variety is black G10, the other is this green G10, and there is no way for them to come apart. The steel is sandwiched between the carbon fiber. It's crazy. Okay. Oh wow. Okay. All right. For some reason, I thought it was sort of inset.
No, there's a tremendous amount of engineering in that knife. I feel like you probably break the carbon fiber before you broke the bond between the carbon fiber and the steel based on how that dude fused those things together.
That's man, that's amazing.
It's really cool. I got to tell you, it's like the kind of, I know they're not cheap. So if you got one, I don't know how many guys would hard use the thing. But it's when you don't often see something, you're like, this is truly innovative. Like this is on another level, and that was the impression I got from that knife. I'm like, this is truly innovative. Like whoever took the time to do this was thinking outside of the box, and I always respect that.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to. I gotta write because I'd love to find out more. Right from the horse's mouth about that. Oh yeah. Speaking of which, Yeah. Hey,
Yeah,
do you
there it
have
is.
a little bro close at hand?
I'll grab it.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, I did my sort of comparison before with Lanny's or with the Benny's clip, which is the same length, but I want to see what these look like right next to each other because I have a feeling, and I never do this. You know, I don't carry two slip joints at once. Oh, what was the name of that Bowie again? All right. So B for Baron. Go to DLT and look up Work Tough Gear. This is Work Tough Gear, and this will be at the top of the page. Oh, I should just put that up. But it's the Puzon Predator Hunter. So if you're out there hunting, I can't remember the species name of the fictional alien, but they have a name. And if you're out there hunting them, that's the one you want. B for Baron. Check it out. DLT Trading. They're awesome. Dirk Werning says,
So,
nailed it with the innovation part. Most innovative knife in a long time.
yeah, I would agree. It's so here we go.
Ooh, okay.
Let me try to get this. So,
Oh yeah.
and let me try to do it like this. I'll pinch them.
Yes. Okay.
And then let me get the blades out. Because it's scaled, and I don't. I think I might have had to tweak the blade a little bit after scaling, but I really tried to just keep it
Yeah.
scaled.
It's called the limb lobber. Yes, it is indeed. Or it could be. Look at that. Oh man. Oh, I'm very excited for this one. I say that every time, but it's true.
There. I think that kind of shows it
Yeah.
probably pretty good.
Yeah, you can see a length difference for sure, but you can also just see a scaled up.
Like chopsticks, trying to
Yeah.
get them to separate. There we go.
Nice.
So it's going to be wider or taller, longer blade, taller all the way across. And then it's also going to be a little heavier. And, you really feel it in the hand. So this feels like a full-size slip joint, and this feels like a small slip joint, but not a mini one. It's not like
Yeah.
Case Peanut,
Right.
But I'm excited for you guys to get these. I really am, because I don't know. I'm a sleeve board guy. Like, I really like these. And so it always gets my hopes up that you guys are going to like them too.
Oh, I think people love sleeve boards. I mean, just look at the popularity of other boys' knives from other companies. I'm thinking of GEC, the 14 and the 15. People love those, and I think to have a scaled up version of that, I don't know if that's ever been done before, but I love the idea.
Yeah, they've got I'm sitting here drawing a blank on the number, but the 2 Acorn Barlow that they did is at the 86. The 2 Acorn Barlow is basically, this is my version of that knife, is about a 4-inch. Now there's a Barlow, but if I put a big bolster on this, it'd be a Barlow.
Right.
And is there a more classic slip joint knife than the Barlow? It's probably the classic. Like, if you were to say, what is the quintessential slip joint knife? It'd probably be the Barlow. And the Barlow is a sleeve board. So,
yeah.
kind of a staple.
Your Barlow, you have one Barlow in the collection, and that's the it's coffin handled, the Midnight Jack.
Yep.
Yeah, I love that knife with the sheep's foot, super sharp sheep's foot blade. Have you ever thought of making a basic multi-tool? Multi-tool like what? Like the only thing I'm sorry to interrupt you, Ben. The only multi-tool I could see Jack Wolf Knives doing is like a classic camp knife, kind of like the 99 Jack from GEC.
Yeah, and you start trying to compete with some real giants of the industry doing that kind of thing. So I don't know. I'm not an industrial designer by trade. So, trying to all of a sudden design scissors or shears. Like those are highly complex. All the geometry on the can openers and bottle openers, like that's a huge project for a guy like me. Not saying I wouldn't be up to the task, but I just don't think it's how I would be spending my time in the near future. Now, if I ever get big enough to where I could hire a industrial designer and engineer to really take designing to the next level, like you start thinking about stuff like that.
Yeah.
But for now, like I'm just a guy who knows enough CAD to be dangerous, and through just sheer determination, taught myself with some help from some masters how to understand this mechanism and design this mechanism effectively. So kind of still, I'm still getting better at it, to be completely honest with you. Like the knives I've designed in the more recent past, at least in my mind, are better technically than some of my earlier stuff.
How would you approach a 2-layer knife? I see like the Ohio River Jacks, the double-bladed versions, or some modern, like some of the Italian modern two-bladed slip joints. They're not doing some of the nuanced stuff that you see from GEC or some older companies, where they're angling the blades right off of the ricasso or right off of the tang area, so that they nestle in without the thing being super thick. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
I do. You make everything more complex immediately, right? So first of all, I don't want something to be too thick overall.
mm-hmm.
So slip joint knife with 2 blades for me would have 2 springs. I don't prefer them sharing a spring.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but now we made the knife thicker. So spring number 2, and therefore blade stock number 2, I want to be thinner than the primary blade. So if my primary blade has 3 millimeter stock, which is 120 thousandths of an inch, secondary blade probably 2 millimeter stock, or 2 1/4, something like that, to try to reduce the overall width. And then for me, I don't prefer I wouldn't design my first one with 2 primary blades. I'd have a secondary blade. I really like coping blades.
Yes.
But like a little pen blade would be fine. And everybody likes pinchable, but there's no way you're going to get 2 pinchable blades.
Yeah.
So now the secondary blade, in order for the first blade to be pinchable and just pinchable enough, the secondary blade has to be low enough, but you still got to get your fingernail in there. And now we can't have a super duper strong spring because you're having to kind of wedge your nail in there, and you don't have the
smaller.
same leverage.
Yeah.
Smaller, you don't want to drive it into the liner. So it's like, holy cow, like
and you also, this is something I've talked about a lot with your designs, you're also going to miss out on the ergonomics of these unique patterns. And like I said before, I have the 66, or what is it?
44.
One of the 44 gun stock jack from GEC, but it's got a little pen blade, and the pen blade comes about as high as this second area. So you don't really, this stepped up area, you don't feel the awesome ergonomics with that secondary blade there to obscure the ergonomics.
There's a lot of compromises in a 2-blade knife, and that's a major one. There's a compromise with the ergonomics, because even with a small pen blade, right where your fingers are going, it's obviously that blade's going to be near the pivot. So you're going to be interfacing with it. And so to me, the strength of a multi-bladed knife, outside of the aesthetic, if that's your preference, is I've got longer before I need to sharpen. So if I'm out in the field and I don't want to carry around sharpening supplies, I might have 3 blades on my knife. That's 3 blades I get to wear out before I got to sit down and sharpen them. But with these super steels and the lack of frequency that most men use their knives today versus 100, 200, 300 years ago, it's like, where's the utility in a multi-blade knife really, other than the desire to own one because you like the way it looks?
Yeah, the thought of having one blade that you never use, that's always there, that's ready to go, is appealing. Like a pen blade is a great, just have a little scalpel like pen blade. Uh, can I see that Bowie again? Want to see the clip point again? Yeah, man. Oh, I hate showing this off. Here, I'll put it under the knife cam. Um, yeah, check out that tip. It's sort of that is not sharpened. That is not a sharpened swedge or a zero ground. It
Dude,
is
there's more steel that was removed from that swedge than is in any single one of my knives.
It's true. This thing is cool. See, this is what I love about knives, is that the variety is endless. You know, last week, Ben, I was showing off this new dagger. It's a Les George designed dagger based on the
Ooh.
Marine Raider dagger that was kind of the precursor to the K-bar. And of course, this is a modern version with great steel and manufacturing, so it's pretty robust. But the original from which it was designed was really delicate and only good for, you know, slipping in the back of someone's head, you know, or neck. Very just all about killing. And that's pretty much, I guess, what this is still a weapon, but it's way more robust. Anyway, I thought you might appreciate that, because
That thing's beautiful. I love the aesthetic of a dagger. And yeah, I mean, they're really not designed for anything other than plunging into a human. They have,
yeah,
you know, their utility is not, you know, its first priority. But
yeah,
as
it's a
far as a
dark
killing device, it's hard to beat.
utility. I saw this great video. There's a great video on YouTube of a older gentleman. I guess he must be former SAS from World War II, and he's probably in his 80s when the video was taken. The video was probably taken in the 90s, and he's talking about it's a nasty bit of work, he says, talking about the Fairbairn Sykes. It's a nasty bit of work. You just kind of hold it, pinch it between your fingers, and you grab the guy by the nape of the neck and you pull him onto it. I was like, I guess you would know, man, because he's got his little beret and woo. Yeah. Hollywood Tactical says, but we need spay blades for spaying our livestock, and we need that sheep's foot for cutting our sheep's feet safely.
Right.
Yeah, no doubt.
Now, there are definitely in rural communities guys that still use these pocket knives in that way. I mean, my wife's from rural Texas, and her sister's ex-husband, I've gotten to know some of the, you know, over the years, some of the community down there. And my sister-in-law's ex-husband and some of his buddies, they would call me up and he'd say, hey man, I want to get a knife, but I got to make sure I can take the nuts off these cows. So like, what would you recommend? And I'm like, none of my knives are good for that, because I don't have the blade you're looking for, you know. But it was like a serious question. He wasn't, you know, trying to sound like a country boy. It was like, hey man, which one should I use to do this job that I do all year, you know? And it's like, hopefully I'll have something for you someday, because I would love that picture to go in my Facebook group, you know?
Yeah, no doubt, man. Man. Yeah, I mean, that's some people's reality. That's their job. And you can see how important it would be to have that shape, so that you're not poking into anything you're not supposed to be poking, you know?
Yeah, I don't think you want to get kicked in the face or
Oh my God.
torture your animals. Those are your livelihood.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure you get attached to them in one way, or at least attached to their well-being until you have to dispatch them. Have a Knife Day says, I always imagine that lost guy of at his hang on. I always imagined that lost guy at his grandchild's show that
Show and tell day. Show and tell.
I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm not reading this one. I was imagining that lost guy at his grandchild's show and tell day, telling his story that his kids are just wide-eyed and the teacher is horrified. Oh, you're talking about the guy, the old British guy. It's a nasty bit of work. Yeah. Woo. The OSS. Office of Strategic Service. Is that what that was? Office of Strategic Services. The OSS, that was an American precursor, I guess, to the CIA. And then the SAS over there was the Special Air Service, is the Special Air Service. That's like their SEALs or whatever. They're badass dudes. So good
the
that we still
alphabet
have
boys.
those guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we need men like that.
No doubt. In the gap, as they say. Oh, wait, I think I forgot to, I meant to show this off earlier. Let me just show everyone. This is the knife we're going to be giving away at um, next week for the Gentleman Junkie knife giveaway. And it is a off-grid Viper 2. And the Viper 2 has that great almost gladius looking Tonto blade. And then it's got this incredible file work and jimping on the spine and really tremendous action. Actually, Carrie sent me 3 of these. I'm giving 2 of them away, and I kept one for myself. And this one that I kept for myself they all have great action, but this one right here, the one that we're giving away next week, has the best right out of the box. I love that design, and the ergonomics of this are very sound. It's very comfortable for extended use. I've done some cardboard cutting with mine. I think, frankly, that's what off-grid knives does best, besides like taking you on an adventure. You know, they seem like great adventure knives, but I've used them most for cardboard, and they're great. They're so thin and slicey. They're awesome knives. So if you're a Gentleman Junkie, be sure to tune in. We'll be giving that away. Beaver Baron says that off-grid is awesome. I agree. I really like off-grid. It's very stout, cool designs. I also like that they feature. Whoops, sorry about that. They feature them in different sizes, so you can get with a design that you like at any size. I dig that. I just like knives. Hollywood Tactical says that clip you were talking about is from Camp X in Canada, where the UK taught. Oh yes, where the UK taught the US the black arts in a neutral territory. The US wouldn't allow training due to neutrality laws. I don't know if that clip was from Camp X in Canada. It looked like it was in a museum of some sort, and the guy was there. But yeah, that's like one of those kind of top secret places that you just hear about. Unfortunately, I live in New York, so it's getting too hot for big coats. I hear you. I mean, sometimes a big coat is just a good way to hide your big knives. Mutiny says, I just like knives, quote unquote. Yeah, me too. So honest. Yeah.
At the end of the day, I think that's why we're here, because we like knives. We might prefer one type over another, but if someone says, "Hey, check this knife out," you're gonna be like, "Okay."
Yeah.
We like knives. That's what we do.
You've been carrying a Sebenza a lot, right?
Yeah, I got so I wouldn't say a lot. I kind of go through phases where I'll carry a modern knife, but without fail, I carry a slip joint knife every day. And ever since I started this project, it's one of mine. Now, it depends on, like, if I'm wearing jeans versus shorts, it's more conducive to carry a clipped knife, because with shorts, at least the ones I have with like slash pockets, you kind of lose the whole pocket. If you have you don't lose the whole pocket, but you got to jam your hand in there past the knife, and it kind of, it's not the best. Versus that's why I like the leather slip. It's down there in the pocket. You still have access to the pocket. But my preference for a modern knife is typically a Chris Reeve left-handed Sebenza, small or large.
And you like the Singo blade?
Yeah, I like the drop point, or not. They call it a drop point. It's like clip point. They call it a drop point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my favorite one. But I also like the Insingo, and I have to say, like, if you're doing what most of us do, which is cut open packages, that Insingo blade is like almost perfect, man. It's like, it doesn't dive tip in like my sheep's foot knife does, for example, on my slip joints. and it's just got enough rock to it so that if you want to hit it with some belly, you can, or if you want to get it with tip, you can. It's like really well thought out, kind of funny looking, I suppose, if you wanted to criticize its aesthetic, but like it looks good in its own regard and it works so good.
Yeah, it's like sometimes the utility, it's like sometimes you get to know someone uh, who maybe you weren't attracted to, and then you get to know her or him, and you're like, they look different in your eyes. Well, it's the same thing with a blade like the Insingo. Once you get to use once you get its utility, it looks different, it looks better to you. I think it looks beautiful, actually, and I love the swedge on that thing. Hey man, what's up? Showing up for the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, I was just to see if you wanted to do a knife fight. I don't know. Just volunteering.
Yeah. I got two.
Is there one?
Two great defenders. I have not come up with them, but we're going to. We will in a minute. What podcast were you on?
Oh, I do a podcast, like a political podcast with a friend of mine.
Okay.
And yeah, she's actually in Tennessee, and we were talking about the representative from Seaverville, where SFKW is.
Oh, nobody uses their knives. Oh my gosh, I miss those days.
Nobody uses their knives to open commies anymore. What? Okay.
He means like split.
You'll be pleased to know that for the first time, I always EDC a slip joint. This is the Kershaw platform. It's a slip joint, and it's a multi-tool because it's a nail clipper, and it's a very effective one. Yeah. So I EDC that every day in one of these little what do you it's like a cowboy style.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like a holster there.
Yeah, like more like a holster than a sheath. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
almost like a gun holster. Yeah, and it's got that. It's got that. That. What do you call that when you emboss it? What are those designs called when you do that on leather?
I think that's just embossed. I think embossed is the right term.
Yeah, it's got some sort of name, and it was very interesting. So right here in Hollywood, up in the Griffith Park, we have the Gene Autry Museum. It's this enormous museum. It's a cowboy museum. It's called the Museum of the West, I think. And that's where, they have lots of old guns and knives. And they were talking about how our cowboy tradition is deeply indebted to the Spanish saddle making style that they learned from these old Mexican artisans who taught them the art of all that elaborate embossing. I don't know. Again, I don't remember exactly. I think it's embossing or something like that. But those very floral patterns that they come up with.
Yeah.
It's a very Spanish aesthetic that these Mexican saddle makers had taught early cowboys.
Some guys call that. You could call it tooling.
Tooling.
Okay. Yeah.
But
because it's got its own special set of tools.
Yeah, and when you go to, like, if you spend time in Texas, where there's obviously strong Mexican heritage and culture, a lot of guys will carry in that exact type of holster. It's like a pancake style holster, and their leather's always decorated like that, and they're carrying their slip joints in there. Their case knife trapper with a yellow Delrin handle.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw my comment earlier, but I don't know if it's wrong. If maybe someone can correct me, but if I'm not mistaken, I think you're right, Ben, that I think the Barlow was the quote unquote original slip joint knife. As I understand it, Sheffield. So we're talking about, that's why I love the word that we call slip joints traditional, because actually your Barlow was your first modern knife, because before that we had to have artisans make them. It was Sheffield that used the new industrial. It was part of the advent of the Industrial Revolution, right? So they started mass producing in Sheffield these pocket knives, and I think something like 80% of them were going to the American West for frontiersmen, cowboys, trappers, etc. Right? And I believe that's what the Barlow was. And then that's why, if you think about it, you know how we talk about saw cut as one of the types of things you could do to the wood handle, right? Again, that's an industrial process, right? So it's the irony of calling it a traditional knife when in fact it's your first modern knife.
Yeah, it was as modern as it could be at the time. That was state of the art knife making back then on a large scale.
Right.
All right, guys. I think I've just conjured up a good knife fight. Let's talk pocket slips.
Dagger versus spay blade.
pocket slips versus pocket clips. And I'm going to give clips to Ben. Ben, you have to defend the pocket clip. And Hollywood, you have to defend the pocket.
You're having us revert. You're doing the true debate thing. You're having us reverse, right?
Yes, I am.
That's exactly right.
Okay, yeah. I'll try. I'll give it a shot.
All right, and I'm gonna give you a minute and a half. Okay, and who would like to go first?
I'll go first.
I'll be brave and go first. Yeah. What do you want to do, Ben?
I'll go first
if you want.
All right. Hollywood,
I'll go first.
You go first.
You don't want to. So.
Okay. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay. You want to use a pocket, one of those pocket slips, the leather ones, because A, that way it doesn't bounce around. B, it's safer because if by some chance you have a weak detent and the knife comes out, you won't reaching for your keys, you won't cut yourself, and it better organizes your pocket. And lastly, when you have the clip on the outside, it might hang up on something and you might lose your knife. Whereas if it's in your pocket, you have a way less chance of it falling out. And that's one of the main reasons why I don't carry any of my expensive knives, because, well, that's actually, I'm contradicting myself. I've been carrying around my Paragon Warlock lately, and I'm paranoid that I'm going to lose this $300 gravity knife. Oh wait, you can't see it. But I don't know if I can find a slip for that. That's my issue. And there's no lanyard hole.
Is that it?
Did I run out of time? I guess.
No, you had 20 more seconds, but I think you petered
20.
out.
Oops. Okay. Yeah.
That's all right. That's okay. That's okay. Taken into account, everybody, he wants a sheath for his Paragon. You should have one of these tooled holsters made. That would be actually pretty cool.
Yeah,
those Paragons
cost
are pretty
a lot.
Sweet. All right, Ben, you are defending pocket clips in 3, 2, 1, go.
Well, knives for a long time did not have pocket clips, and there's a reason why they have become widespread in their acceptance and use, and that is because in your busy everyday life where you're juggling a lot of things all the time, being able to retrieve and deploy your knife with one hand is a convenience that should not be considered trivial. And that is because oftentimes you need that flexibility, you need that speed of deployment. It allows you to conduct work with the knife hand while holding work with the non-knife hand, and with care of where you place it and having knowledge of where it is on your belt or in your pocket, I should say, you can avoid hooking it with your seatbelt or other things that can pull it out of your pocket. So practically speaking, it's a non-issue. In addition, with a leather slip, you can have that slide out of your pocket if you're ever in the car or sitting on any kind of incline. And so the pocket clip, with its widespread adoption, has become the golden standard for knife carry.
Man, and right at a minute and a half, this guy.
Good point.
This guy. We have two professionals with us.
That hurt my soul.
I was also thinking that was a good point though, Ben, is back when guys would put maybe Barlow in their pocket, we didn't have to carry a bunch of stuff. Today we've got our phone, our keys, now multiple keys, credit cards. Well, I mean, most people, unless you were some really like high class dude, you didn't have a bunch of stuff you had to carry around every day, except for literally a pocket knife. You probably didn't carry around keys, you know. If you were just a worker, like literally like a cowboy, you didn't carry around keys.
JVF says now the next Jack Wolf knife will have a clip. Yeah, I want to see that.
No, it won't.
I get a lot of requests for it. I would never say never. I think about it. I don't know how I would execute it. I'm tempted just to see how it would do. I get enough requests for it that from the business side of me says, like, don't be stubborn, Ben. Explore the opportunity and see what's out there. But then the traditional side of me, the knife guy, is like, this is a bridge we're not allowed to cross. Like, this is a line in the sand.
Clip confirmed for Jack Wolf knives.
Take your cue from some of the Italian companies that are putting clips onto theirs. If you want to really go all out, I suggest you do that spring-activated one that Lion Steel does, where it disappears altogether. That would be elegant. Again, that's going to jack up your price big time, but you're already high-end.
And it's going to make it thicker. I say stay in your lane. Yoda Doug says, I'm waiting for Jack Wolf with a clip to buy one. He says, oh, man.
It's like, and the thing here is like part of the slip joint experience, like one of the things that separates it from your modern locking knife, other than the mechanism, is the lack of the pocket clip.
Yes.
So it's like, embrace it, give it a try. You might find out you love it. I mean, that's exactly what happened to me, to the point where I almost have to talk myself into putting a clip on my pocket.
On that note, guys, I think we're going to wrap it. We're going to call it. I got to wake up in 5 hours for work. And,
thank you.
And I wish I didn't. Hey, Hollywood, thanks for coming on, man. It's always a pleasure to not only talk with you, but I love the debates when you're here, the knife fights, man. I appreciate you. And Ben, thank you so much for coming on. Don't forget the new Big Bro Jack drops next Friday. That's a week from tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 11 p.m. Pacific at the many dealers that Ben has secured. Really impressive amount of dealers you have. So well done on that end too. I cannot wait to get mine. You're going to hear all about it right here. So thanks, guys. Great to have you on. And thank you one and all for watching. It's greatly appreciated. Be sure to join us for Mike Donnelly of Luck Knives. You remember him as NAF Sergeant. He's been making some beautiful stuff. We have him on Sunday's show. Until then, for Jim working his magic behind the switcher, I'm Bob DeMarco saying, don't take dull for an answer.